Hey guys, now I got this driver door lock module in my hand here. Now I'm gonna put this in 2 videos about this driver door lock module, because I don't really see a lot of information about this thing. There are some out there about repairing solder joints, bad micro switch, you know, things of that sort. But as far as the operation, how this thing works, this is going to be the most detailed 2 videos that you're going to ever see, I think. So we're going to cover this thing pretty well. All right. The second video, I'm going to go into more things about electrics of it, the wiring diagrams, how I believe it works, the internals, how it works. We're going to look at the mechanical part of this thing along with the electrical. I'm going to put the electrical in the second video. And in that video, I think I'll talk a little bit more about the micro switches, and also we're going to talk about the failures that these things will have. So let's look over the mechanics first. I think we'll do that first. It looks pretty intimidating, doesn't it? But it's not really that bad. Okay, the first thing you're going to notice, we're going to use this as an orientation of how we're going to take it apart. It's sitting in the car, in the door, just like this. This is on the driver's side. Now this assembly right here is a lever that goes up and down. Okay, now right now, you notice that I cannot move it up and down. Okay, the door right now is in an open. The door right now is in an open position. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock or shut the door. Let's get those terminologies correct. This door right now is shut. Okay, and right now it is in a unlocked position because this is up. There's going to be a linkage that'll connect to here. It'll go up and it'll go to your manual knob that you can push up and down for manual locking and unlocking. Okay, now right now it is in a locked position. Okay, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the car is armed. If you use the push button inside your car to lock and unlock, okay, this is what you're doing. Unlock, lock, but the car is not on. Now if you use your remote transmitter, which will do the same thing, right? That's a lock, and then you'll see a flashing red LED. So now the car is on. So when you come back and you hit unlock, that's going to go up, okay? And then it's going to turn off the red LED from flashing, and then your car is disarmed. Okay, now, so right now the door is shut. So now if the door is shut, right, you notice right now that I can open the door. This linkage right here connects with a short cable to the outside door handle. Okay, now let's lock. Well, I can't lock it because now I got the door open. So let's go back and shut the door. Now I'm going to lock it. Now if I lock it, I should not be able to open this here door from the outside, right? So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to pull on the door handle, which is what I've just done. You notice that you do not see the door unlocking mechanism here to open the door. Okay, so now you see how that works, all right? So let's say I'm going to unlock it, right? I'll unlock it. That's with the, let's say I'm using the key, I'm using the unlock button inside the car, or I'm using the remote transmitter, whichever, doesn't matter. Now I come to the door, I open, get the handle. If you watch right here, now I'm going to pull it, and you'll see that now I've just opened the door. Okay. Now, by the way, this door lock module, as I mentioned, was in this position right here. And the 2 bolt holes right here is what mounts it. This is to the back of the door. This is to the inside of the car. This over here is to the outside of the car. Okay, so let's go back. We're going to shut our door. Okay, we're going to lock it. Okay, now I'm in the inside of the car. Okay. Now there's a lever right here. It's called a Bowden cable that gets connected there, and that's with this cable right here. So that'll go in there, and that'll come down, and then it'll snap into this here groove, and then the other end up here with the hook will hook up to your inside door handle. Okay? Okay, so now I'm going to get ready to pull that door handle from the inside. Now you pull on your door handle, the cable's going to pull this here lever, and it's going to work just like this. As you notice, this here will push this here lever up to unlock the door. And at that point, then the door we can open. Okay? So one more time, I've got the door shut. I've locked the door. I'm inside the car, and now I'm going to unlock it. You see how that worked right there? Okay. Now, how about I'm in the lock position and I armed the car. All right, I'm using the remote transmitter. So if I unlock the car from the inside with it armed and I'm doing this, then I've just set the alarm off. And it's, you know, the light's going to go and horn's going to beep and that kind of stuff. Okay, so that's how that's going to work. Okay, now you notice how the this only works when the door is shut, right? The door is open right now, and now I cannot move this, and that's normal operation. Now that we went through that whole operation of seeing how this thing will work, we got one more thing to check out. In this position right here, you'll see this here little white insert. It's got a slot in it. This is where your key lock cylinder is going to go into. It's going to be a stem on your lock cylinder. It'll fit right in here. So we're going to take a screwdriver. And by the way, you see how the slot is vertical? Well, that's the position that you want it in when you put it back into the car. It turns out that when you put the lock cylinder into the bore of that it's going to go into the door, then this here stem is going to be vertical, just like the screwdriver of my shaft. So this thing can move kind of back and forth. You see it's got a little bit of play in it. Okay. Now if I want you to listen very carefully. When I turn it to the left, just like if I'm turning the key, you'll be able to hear the micro switch. Okay. I'll shut up so you can listen. Hear it? That's going to the unlock position. Basically, there's two micro switches in here. When I go there, I've made the micro switch to tell the car that it's going to get ready to unlock, and it's going to disarm the system. Okay, that's when you're using your key. Now, I'm going back to the right. We just released off of that micro switch, and now we're going to turn to the right, so we're going to lock the door. And also it will arm. There's the other switch. So it just made. Okay, so we can hear the two micro switches in there. One there and one over here. Now, over here, of course my door is shut, so I'm allowed, you know, I can move this up and down. I'm in the unlock position now. So there's one more thing that this here cam will do. Alright, so I'm in the unlock position over here. I'm going to turn the cam, just like I'm going to turn it with my key. Watch this lever over here. You notice how it went to a lock position. Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to turn it back to the left. I'm going to turn it. Can you see it? I'm going to turn this, and you can notice that it's now in a lock position. I'm sorry, that was unlock. This is lock. Unlock, lock. And you notice that there's no electricity for that. So when you're turning your key, you're actually moving this here mechanism mechanically, okay, to lock and unlock your door. The micro switches are used to just tell the car that you're going to arm and disarm the car. All right. Now we're going to look in there. We're going to get ready to open this thing up, and so we're going to look at this mechanism along with a whole lot of other stuff, and we're going to see how all of this here stuff works. Okay. All right. The first thing, this is going to be our reference, just like it is right now. This will be up at the top, and I'm going to hold it like that. Now, if you look around on the outer perimeter, you'll see these brass-looking screws here. There's 7 of them. This is going to be a T10. So I'm going to do this in real time. I'm not going to speed anything up. I want you to see everything that I'm doing here. And then when we put it back together, you know, then I'll probably just tell you, okay, put your screws back in, because this way you'll see what I'm doing right now. And by the way, just so we have a reference to where we're starting at, let's have this in an unlocked position, okay? This will be up, and we'll, okay, just want to show you, lock your door, or shut your door rather, shut your door, that's locked, okay? This is unlocked. I'm going to open the door, okay, and that's going to be our reference. It does not matter whether it's locked, the door is shut, but just so that when we open this thing up, we're both going to see the same thing. In other words, when you open yours up, the internals is going to look just like mine. So this is how we want it. Unlock, okay, unlock position, door is open. All right, let's keep on working on these T10s right here. Okay. All right, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4 so far, and we got some down here. Got 3. There's 7 around the perimeter. Okay. Now keep in mind, if you got an aftermarket driver door lock, say like Dorman, then these here are not going to be T10s. They're going to probably be more like Phillips screws. Okay, but they're going to be pretty much the same basic screws, layouts, and that kind of stuff. Okay. All right, before we get too far, maybe we should have just took this spring off. It doesn't matter, but while we're thinking about it right now, let's just go ahead and take this here spring out of there. So this lever right here, remember, this lever, holding it just like that, that's how it is. What we're going to do, connects out to the outside door handle. Let's go ahead and take this spring off. So take this lever, pull it all the way back. You notice it'll stay in place. Then I'm just going to take this here spring, and I'm just going to grab it right there. Let me see if I can get this a little bit. Just want to slip on it a little bit. Okay. So it came out. Now you may not have saw how it was, but this is how it was in there. Okay. Just like that. And let me pull the lever back. Just so you see. Just like that. This part over here, the spring is facing down. The little round part just tucks right up in there like that. This part will rest back up here, and then this gets back over there. Okay, so now we'll just slide him out of the way. Now, let's just close the lever up so it doesn't come down on our hand. All right, the next screw we want to take out is this one right down here. This is going to be a T20. Okay, so let's get him on out of there. Okay, now flip him over to your right, and then you're going to notice it looks like a little cover right here. There's another screw right here. That screw is going to be a T8. So let's take him loose. Okay, so now he's out of there. Okay, now come back to where you took your spring off. Open your lever up. This way we can separate the mechanical from the electrical part. Now take the assembly, the part where the mounts to the back of the door with the 2 holes. Just grab it like that, put it in your hand. Now come back over here, and what we're going to do is we're going to lift this whole assembly up. Before we do that, we got 2 more things we got to do. I want you to look right up here at the top. Where's the lever up here, lock, unlock, and you'll notice there's a plastic tab right up here. So get your little small screwdriver, kind of get up underneath this, pop that, flip it right over on this side, and then you'll see this here white piece here that's catch on that tab right there. Get your screwdriver up under there, pop that loose, okay, put it back in your hand like so, grab the top and just kind of work it right off, and it's just like that. Then we can lay it over. Okay, now this part right over here is all the mechanical section right over here. This part over here is assembly for the electrical. There's 3 micro switches in here, and there's also another micro switch right here. So there's a total of 4 micro switches, plus there's also a motor, DC motor, inside this assembly. Okay. Now you remember I was talking about that this lever right here? You know how it would work only when the door is shut and then you open the door and then you could not move it? Well, at this point right now, you can see that we'll be able to move this thing with no problem. Now what I want you to notice is this here lever right down here. This lever is going to connect right down into this assembly right here. Right there where that notch is at. Okay? Now let's see how this assembly right in here works to lock this here lever so it doesn't move in certain positions. Okay? Now, let's take that lever, we'll knock him back. And before I do that, I want you to look at one other thing here. Take a look and notice this here cam bar right here. Okay? Now you notice this cam bar is on top of this here phenolic plastic, and there's a stop here and there's a stop here. So this right here can move in and out. Now, let's take this and we're going to move it. Okay? You see what it's doing right now? Okay? You can kind of see the action of that. Now, I'm going to imagine that this lever right here is down inside this notch. Okay? So now I'm going to try to simulate moving this here lever in a lock and unlock. Well, look, I cannot move it. Alright? Now, let's go back and put this here door in a shut position. We've just closed the door. Okay? And I want you to see that, right? So let me do that again. I want you to watch the cam mechanism right in here moving. This piece, what I want you to watch is this piece right here. Okay? So when I push this in, you notice how it's sliding over? See how it went over? Okay? Now, this is not in between these two here stops here. Now I should be able to take this here and move back and forth. Now you can see how it works, okay? Because this here cam bar right here is slid out of the way. It's got out of this here groove between these two stops. Now, if I come back and I try to pull this shut, you see, it moves in, and when it does that, and I try to go back, see, it locks it. That's why that lever on the lock and unlock position will not toggle back and forth unless your door is shut. Okay? Alright, now let's move over to the electrical section. I think we got the mechanical down pat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to move it like this. So put yours just like this. When you open yours up, yours is going to look just like mine. Alright, now we got one more screw that we have to take out before we lift the cover off. And if I can find my T10, that one's going to be right here. This screw is hidden because the mechanical section is over top of this, so we never can see it. But now that we got it separated, now we're going to take this screw out. Alright, so now we've got them out. Now, make sure that you have your white assembly on the bottom. Now, if you have a different manufacturer, I think I'm pretty sure this is the original on the car. You want this lever to be up, okay? And then just take the black section and just lift it straight up. Alright, now that we got it opened up, first thing I'm going to do before I forget it is I'm going to talk about the failures on these things and what happens, okay? So, one of the bad things that happens is the circuit connections here on the solder pads over here that's up underneath this area. Now I'm going to just take this thing apart. I'll explain how it all goes back together, but right now I want to get this out of the way so I can show the guys out there if they want to repair theirs. Alright. Now for the most part, these micro switches right here, they're going to be okay. But while you got it open, go ahead and just check it anyway, okay? So let's get this on up. Let me tuck him over there and let me flip this thing over. These are the connections that you'll see the actual connections will crack You see that one right there? You see it looks like it's got a little bit, not enough solder on there. Okay. Turns out that was okay, and I'll show you what's wrong with mine later. But check these connections right here, reheat them, inspect them really good. You can look at these connections down here, but for the most part they're going to be okay. But while you're there, if you want to heat up the joints there, go ahead. Okay, and you can see what's actually happens here. These solder pads will crack, and what will happen is that when you're opening and closing, shutting your door over the years, these here joints will crack, and you can see how far these metal bands go out, and they're going into the board. So this thing will flex, and after a period of time, this thing here will fail as far as these joints. Okay, another thing that'll fail, very common problem, is this micro switch right here. Usually this micro switch, there's a plunger in there that's actuated off of this cam. We'll talk about that and show you a little bit more how that works later in the video. But what'll happen is that the plunger will get broken off, and then you got a normally open switch. So the door never knows when it's in a open condition. So it'll always think it's closed. So if you open your door, you don't see your lights pump coming on. This is usually what's going to be happening here. So you want to check that right there. So also, if you open your door and you see that your doors want to lock, right? Then with your door open, this is another common problem for that too, because it still thinks that the door is closed, so it'll go ahead and try to arm the car. So check that really good. Check your joints, and that's pretty much it. As far as the motor, the micro switches here, these three, they're usually in pretty good shape. But like I said, go ahead and check them while you're there. Okay, so that's gonna take care of it for the guys out there that wants to actually do a repair on their on their driver door lock module. Okay, no problem. Now we're going to look at all the details of this thing and see what happens here. Okay, now first thing you'll notice is that you'll see this here lever up in the top section, right? This is that lever that we were moving back and forth. So if I move this lever back and forth, you can see what this is doing. This piece is moving back and forth. Now this piece, this pin right here, is going to connect and go down inside of this here slotted hole right here. So when I'm moving this here back and forth, then this slide is going to move back and forth. So it's going to be doing this right here. Okay. So that's what we're going to be doing. Slide is going back and forth. Okay. Now you understand how that's working with that lever. Okay. Okay. Now if you notice right here, there are two micro switches. Okay. Now when you put your key, this is for the key sensing when the key is in your lock cylinder of the door. Now you stick your key in. You turn it clockwise from the outside. So what's going to happen is that this here cam is going to turn. When you turn the key, this is going to turn. And when this turns, what's going to happen is it's going to make this switch. If you can see that right there. That switch is already made. And I'll come back off so you can see it. See? It's off. There. That told it that you're going to lock. This is going to be a signal going back to the driver door module. It's going to be a low state or a high state, 0 volts, or it's going to be maybe 5 volts or 12 volts. I don't know which voltage it is. And maybe I'll look at that a little bit later to get the actual voltage, but it's not important. So it's looking at two states. Is voltage there or not there? And that's what the driver door module is looking at. And that in turn is going to arm the car. So it's going to lock and unlock. A lock and arm. Okay, so now you turn the key counterclockwise. Notice that you're going to only have one switch made at one time. Now this switch has came off. I'm turning counterclockwise. Watch this switch up here. And you can see that it just made. So that's a signal back to the driver door module that you want to unlock and disarm the car. Okay? Now, let me take this here cam out because it does one other thing. This here will go back and will fit right up in here, just like that. and I'm going to set him right there. So you're putting the key in from this side right there. Alright, you have your lock cylinder. It has a stem. The stem on the lock cylinder is coming into this slot right there, right? When you take your lock cylinder out, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And here's what's happening. If you look right down there, there's a cam lobe right there that is going to be hitting this right here. So when you turn your key, right, you turn your key, that's going to turn that. And you see right now, I'm already going in that direction, right? So let's go back the other way. And there's another cam lobe right there. See the high spot there? So it's going to hit, and then I'm going to turn. And when I turn it, let's get this here. Yep, so I need to go back to the right. Sorry about that. So if I turn it, you see how it does? And I go back the other way with my key, and you can see that it's going to turn the other way. So when you put your key in, you're moving this lever, which moves this slide, right? And when you move this slide with this assembly, at the same time, the other cam lobes on here is actuating these two micro switches. So it's kind of like doing two things at one time, okay? Now, when you take this slide, see, and it's going to move up here. And if you look right down here, you'll see there's a flag right here on this here slide that is making this switch right now. When this switch is in this position made, this is putting a signal back to the driver door module saying, hey, it's unlocked, okay? So it's also a signal to unlock and disarm the system, okay? Once it goes back this way, when the slide is going this way, we're going into now we're in a lock position, all right? We took that lever up here and we turned it down to go into a lock position. Up here, that is an unlock, and at the same time we're in the unlock position, this here micro switch is made. Now we're going to get into the contact arrangements and all the states of that, but we're going to save that to the next video. Right now in this video, we want to look at the mechanical operation and basically how the assembly works and what these switches are actually doing. And I'm just, just talking about it in a generic manner right now. All right. So now that we see how that works, let's take it apart. All right. So we can take this assembly, we'll lift it up, and then we'll turn the gear to the side a little bit. This assembly right here, this little holder right there, we just can take it with our fingers, lift it straight up, slide it off, and there it is. All right. Now let me show you what it looks like. This is how it was on, just like that. You notice there's a small hole for the motor shaft, and then there's another hole larger over here for this shaft on this here slide, there, which fits right in there. So it's kind of like, this is what it'd be like. So it'll go in there just like that, and then the motor shaft will go over here, okay? Now you notice that we got two springs on here, okay? And we'll talk about that in just a little bit, and I think I can show you better once I get it back together, but I want to turn it down for you so you can see. So you see it'll go into spring tension. And also this has right-hand threads on it. I'm sorry, left-hand threads. I can screw this thing right on out, no problem. And then I can screw it back on in. Okay? Get it started, there we go. Okay, see how the spring compresses? And then this is the back side. Alright? Now we're going to set him over there for now. Okay, now we have this here motor. Now we can take the gear off. Okay? Now this is what I found a little bit interesting. Let me put this back on there for a second. Now you notice that the gear is going to turn. The motor's going to turn. Okay, you expect this here gear to turn, and then that turn, that's going to turn this gear, and then of course that's going to move the slide up and down, right? Well, here you go. Watch this. when I'm doing this, that motor shaft is not turning. It is not tied to this motor shaft. It sits there and freewheels. Now you may be wondering, how in the hell is this working? And you know what? I wondered the same thing and said to myself, how in the hell is this thing working? So what happens is, here's how it works. If you look right inside here, look inside this brown gear, you notice that there is a copper band that runs all the way around. But there's a slot here. Now this slot, you notice it's got this tab. These here is bent down, right? Notice that? I'll just look at that real good. Okay? Now, take a look at this over here. This here white holder is tied physically to the motor shaft. Okay, they're linked together. They're tied together, right? Now, but notice this here little silver looking job right here. Okay, and you see that real good? Mm-hmm. All right, this silver weight, it's a weight. It's not magnetic. And it has a little coil spring around it. All right, and what will happen is that when the motor is running, this here will fly out this direction by centrifugal force. This will move out, and when it moves out, it's going to come in contact with this copper band. Now when it hits that copper band, then that weight being up here is going to come over to a stop, and if it's turning in this direction, the motor, that weight is going to hit right there, and it's going to take and turn and pull that gear right on around. Okay. Now if we're going the other way, of course, then the weight will go this way, hit that stop, and then turn it in the opposite direction. Okay. Now, so what this is more or less, it's more like a clutch. So what'll happen is let me put it back together really quick here, and then you can see kind of how this thing will work. Now I wanted to tear it apart here just so you could see that. So you put it back together. Let me get my thing here. Put him right there. Put him in there, put him in there, put him down there, and he's done. Okay. All right, and when you put it back, you notice there's a peg. There's a peg here. Okay, there's a peg here, and there's a peg over here for your PC board. All right. So I'm going to be turning the shaft. Okay. So you see the slide is going down, and it's going down. So we're going into a lock position right now. Okay. Now when I get down here, notice the springs. I'm going to kind of put my fingers there to hold the slide down, but I want you to be able to see the springs. Okay? Now, once this spring starts compressing, then that's putting more load on the motor, which in turn is going to slow the motor down. Now when the motor slows down, that's going to be less centrifugal force, which means that the weight is going to drop out. That means it's not going to be contacting that little bent tab in there, or at least one of them, because it's only one for each direction. Then once that happens, then the motor is going to release basically, or I should say that the brown gear is going to release from here, and therefore it's not going to go any further, even with the motor running. So you can see, let me go ahead and you can see the spring compressing. There it goes. I'm putting more load on the motor. The weight drops down because the motor is slowing down. It's got more load, and the purpose of all this, from what I can figure, is that it won't sit here and tear this assembly out and put a lot of load on this motor. So that's why they had this thing to slip more or less. Now when I'm coming back in the other direction, I'm going now into the unlock position. So now I'm running this back up. Okay. Now you notice as it's coming up, I got the flag, and it's going to hit this here micro switch. Comes up, and you can watch it here. Okay, you probably can hear. I'll shut up. Okay, you hear the click? Mm-hmm. So that's the signal back to the driver door module. Says, hey, we're in an unlocked position, right? Now at that point, I figured at this point it can tell the motor from the driver door module to stop, right? And then of course, now you see the other spring compressing, which does the same exact thing. The weight's going to drop out. That's going to release this, and it'll be more like a clutch, okay? Now maybe I threw this thing back in here too fast, but I'm going to just show you a little bit slower. One thing too I didn't mention is that when you take your motor out, there's going to be a little plastic bush in here, okay? So be careful of that, because you know, this thing might roll away, and then you'll notice that there ain't no support back here. So you take your bushing, slide it on, take him, drop him down, and up here, now I saw in the forum there, one of the forums on, you know, Volkswagen forums, they're talking about alignment marks and putting this here, mark this to this and that to the gear over here, and it's like, you don't need to do that. This thing will self-adjust. Besides, it's slipping anyway. You know, it gets to the end of its travel, it slips, and so it's a self-adjusting thing. You don't have to worry about it. So it doesn't matter where that's at. Okay, so take your little brown gear, slide it on, okay? Now, once you do that, then, as I mentioned before, you want this here plastic holder to hold the ends of the shaft. Now, I didn't mention this, but I'm going to show you right now. Flip it right up, and you'll look up underneath, and you're going to see these little openings here. One's here, and one is right over here. All right? These two openings are going to fit right down over top of this right here. You're going to see this here little peg right there. And you're going to see this peg over here. So that's where they're going to fit. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take it like so. I got my slide in this position. Remember, not that, like this. I'm going to slide this here piece over the motor shaft first. Okay. I'm going to kind of lean it out a little bit. Then I'm going to take my gear. I'm going to slide him in there like so. Okay. This assembly back here. You want him to drop down on that right there, and you look up here, and you want to make sure that that and that is down. And you're done. That's it. One final thing, that when you take this out, you want to absolutely make sure that this here flag is sliding on that micro switch. Now, if you look at mine right now, you can see that it's not, okay? You can see that you don't see the plunger. The plunger is underneath the slide right there. So you want to make sure that you get that taken care of, right? So I'm going to get him over. Now, you see how the black plunger might be a little hard to see right here? But now you see that the plunger is on there. So you take this, slide it back. Okay, there's a plunger. Make sure when you move them up, you can see that this here flag, when I'm saying flag, this part that juts out from the slide that makes the micro switch. That's what an industrial term. They call it a piece of metal or whatever, or plastic that's going to make onto a micro switch. They call it a flag. Okay? Mm-hmm. So make sure that works okay. That looks good to me. Okay? Now, turn your assembly around, and now we're going to put this thing back together. All right, these two wires over here, they're going to go back over, and you'll notice there's going to be two grooves. There's a groove right here, and there's a groove right here. So let's take him and put him right there in those two grooves. I got my red wire. You notice the red wire is closest to the edge of the board, so the red wire goes on the bottom, blue wire up on the top. Okay, now, kind of hold your assembly down, PC board, make sure everything looks good. Make sure your micro switch is good, okay? Make sure your holder over here is in good shape. All right, then you're going to take your cover, okay? Remember, we're in an unlock position now because we're on the switch, making on a switch, okay? Now, before we got one more thing to do, we want to take this cam, right? And we want to put him in there. And I got my little, let me get my little O-ring here. Okay, let me slide him on. Okay. Now what you're going to do is you're going to look at your cam here. You're looking for this little jutting out piece. You see you got a little small cam probe there. Got one that juts out really big, and then you got a small one. Look for this one right here. It's on the bottom, just like it is right now. You're going to take him, and you're going to insert this part pretty much right in between these two micro switches. Okay. So I'm going to take him. I'm going to stick him down. Okay. And you see, make sure to go back and forth. Okay, you made that switch. Let's go over here. Makes him good. And when you get through, just take it and put that big piece, the large cam profile, put it in the center. Make sure that neither one of your switches are made. That looks pretty good to me. Okay. Now, you're coming back with your black cover. Okay. Now we want to make sure that this here is in this here position here, right? So I'm looking at it. If you look right there, you see how it's going to line up. That there post is going to go right down into that slot. If I move this, right, you can obviously see that that is not going to line up here, right? Okay, so let me just put it back. And now we're going to make sure our wires, my little blue wire, he wanted to pop up. So we're putting him down. Now I'm going to take this and we're just going to go straight down. Now when you put it on, you're going to notice you don't have to sit there and pry. It's all made together, right? It's done, okay? While you're holding it together, if you want to make sure that you got it lined up, this here linkage here with your slide, you can go ahead and move it back and forth. Sounds good. When you get through, leave that up in the unlock position. Okay. Now we're going to take and we're going to rotate it around, and we're going to take and put our hidden screw in first, and that's going to be this screw right here. It's going to be right up under this linkage. So let's get our T10. Let's put him in there, and let's get my little tool here, and let's screw him all down. Okay. Now, going back to how we were before, take our lever here, pull him out, grab this piece here, just like it is right now. Okay, so you see how it is. Now, we're going to take him, and see what we want to do is we want this to be in the unlock. We want that piece to make sure he's going to fall down into this here notch. And to do that, that's why he wants to be in the unlock position. So, we're going to push him, line him up. Just come on down with it. Okay. Now, if you notice, we're going to get him in there in just a second. Okay. Now, you notice what you're shooting for. You can use your little catches to help you line up. This right here. All right. That's what I'm looking at. Then if you look over here, see he's already lined up. Then just take the piece assembly and just push them together. Then the catches will lock. That one's locked. Yep, that one's locked. And then come back. Pull him back. That way we don't get our fingers mashed. Alright, now once you do that, we're going to hold these two assemblies together. We're going to take and get our T20 screw. We're going to put that big screw that we took out, we're going to put him right in there. Okay, now get our T20. We're going to screw him down. Okay, now we're going to take it and we're going to go and put all of these screws in. Alright, now I'm going to catch you guys in the next shot because you saw what I did before. So just take and get your T10 screws and put all those screws around the outer perimeter. You're going to find that you're going to have to put in 7 of them. Alright, so we got our 7 screws in. We flip it over, and now we're going to put our T8 right there. Okay, so let's get him in there. I guess I'll let you guys see this one, huh? And let's go ahead and tighten him down. Okay, so he's done. And now we go back to like this, right? Pull our lever out. We're going to go with our spring, just like this. Slide him in, right? Now we're going to come back and we're going to get our needle nose pliers. And we're going to take and lift him over, slide him in, pull the lever back, and we're done. Now we got it all back together. So you guys know what to do now to check it out as far as the operation of it. No need for me to go through all of that to show you what was up in the beginning of the video. You do still remember how to do it, right? You know how all of this works. Of course you do. If you don't, go back to the beginning of the video and just kind of refresh yourself. You know what? I was just thinking. You guys are probably wondering, saying, well, what the hell was wrong with this one? You know what? You got a good point there. Let me show you that part right now, and now you'll see what was going on. I filmed that a little bit earlier so you can see what happened on this here door lock module. Now guys, right down in here, there's a little button right here that's coming off of this cam. So when you shut your door, then it's going to move the lever back and forth when you open it. So basically this here little assembly, this cam is going to rock back and forth off of this switch. But I was looking in there and this looks like there's some kind of crap or maybe a rubber, see that crap coming out of there? It's like a rubber O-ring right there. So it could be that this rubber, you know, deteriorated and it just maybe held the switch in a spot where it could not actuate. Also, this here switch looks to me like it's probably riveted in there, so it's hard to say. They did not want you to work on this thing, that is for sure. It would be nice if we can get this thing out of there so we can kind of look at that. And basically what will happen is that, well, when you shut, like right now, let me unlock it. Okay, so you open the door, so now you shut it, and we should be able to see. I'm going to take my screwdriver and I'm going to push this in, just like we're shutting the door. And if we look right in there on that switch, we should be able to see that cam assembly move. You got your light down in there? There you go. I can see it good now. So this assembly right here should move. So let's see if it does. Yeah, right there. Perfect. There we go. See it moving? Yep. So, yeah. Maybe something's going on with that. Let's unlock it. Alright guys, what I've done here is I've unsoldered these two wires that was going to that 4th micro switch that we were talking about. I just unsoldered just so it'd be easier just to get my leads on there. And right now you can see it's an open circuit on the micro switch. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lock the door, shut it, and it's shut. And as you can see, it's still open. So we confirmed that we do have a switch that's not working. I'm going to open the door now. And again, nothing. Now the only thing here, no doubt that we can't get this micro switch out. But the only problem is I'm thinking that these here pegs that's up here is probably a part of the micro switch. The reason I say that is if we look over here, we can see there's little pegs right up here on the top of these other ones there. So, but at this point, it's no good anyway, so I'm going to see if I can take maybe a cold chisel, maybe just kind of pop those off, and I'll get back with you and let's see where we're at after that. Alright, what I did here is I took the cold chisel, okay, and I took a hammer, and you remember those little stops that was on top, and I just took it and put it on the side and pop and pop. They were just plastic, there was no problem. Then I took a drift punch, I put it on the top, pop, pop, and it came out. So here's what we got. So there's those little posts where I knocked the tops off, and then I took the drift punch and just tapped it, and it popped right on out. But look at here. As you can see, there is no plunger. I looked in here, there was no plunger, so I guess this plunger has long been gone. So there is nothing to actuate, nothing to push down on this thing. Now, there is a manufacturer on here. It is Burgess. I don't know if you can read that. B-U-R-G-E-S-S. But I do not see any part number whatsoever. You know, while we're here, for some of you guys that might get lucky, maybe you see a bad solder connection, you know, something like that. And maybe what I'll do is I'll show you a technique here as far as in soldering, kind of like what I do. Let me just stick him back up in there. The secret to soldering is to have your tip of your iron hot. And what I do is I clean my iron every time when I go to a new joint, I'm going to clean it, okay? So get your wet sponge, clean it. And I like to use this stuff right here, if I can find the top for you. It's called a tip cleaner, tinner and cleaner. So what you do is you take your iron, just stick it in there. It'll clean the tip, any oxidation that you got on there. Take it off. Then I come back with my solder. I'll tin it, shake off the excess, heat up both the pad and the wire, and just feed the solder in, hold it, let it go, and you can see it makes a nice joint. So you can see it right in there. Okay. Alright guys, what I'm going to do is the last thing before we wrap this video up is I'm going to actually energize the motor so you can see the linkage move. I've got a power supply here. I got it set for 12 volts. I'm limiting my current to 1 amp. So you guys can watch right over here. Let me go ahead and enable my output over here. And over here, you guys watch it. This is my lock position. That's my unlock, as you know. So I'm going to energize it to make this thing lock. So let me get in there. So you can just watch the lever move, and I'm just going to get in here with a T-pin, and I'm just going to. Okay. So that's gonna take care of this video. And in the next video, we are going to be looking at the electrics, going into a little bit more detail about how does this circuitry work in here. So you guys take care, and we'll see you in the next video.